Hello and welcome to the Irish Aesthete. Previously I've been talking about one of the most wonderful country house ruins in Ireland. Dromore Castle, County Limerick, was built in the late 1860s. The house was commissioned by the 3rd Earl of Limerick, who, although he owned much land in the area, had no residence there. Dromore was intended to correct this deficiency. The romantic young Earl chose as his architect the Bristol-born Edward Godwin, a man whose work would draw on an exceptionally wide variety of sources. While the Gothic revival, espoused by the likes of Augustus Welby Pugin and his followers, obviously exerted an influence on Godwin, he was also one of the first people in this part of the world to properly appreciate Japanese art and architecture. This is especially evident in some of the furniture he designed, such as this rosewood table made in the 1870s. When it came to the exterior of Dromore Castle, Godwin faithfully sought inspiration in the Middle Ages. Sometimes he sought it a little too faithfully. The main entrance, for example, was designed for medieval vehicles and turned out to be too small for a 19th century carriage, meaning it couldn't get into the castle courtyard. Inside the castle, on the other hand, Godwin was allowed by his client, Lord Limerick, to let his imagination run wild. Here, for example, is his proposal for Japanese-inspired wall decoration at Dromore, which would have provided a curious juxtaposition with the building's Gothic architecture. In fact, much of the interior was Gothic in character and in furnishing, but the pointed arch sideboards and display cabinets, all designed by Godwin, held examples of Oriental blue and white china, and the curtains were hung with fabric of Japanese design. Meanwhile, some of the castle's other walls were intended to be covered in murals evoking the medieval period. These were painted by the artist Henry Stacey Marks, who specialised in romantic evocations of the Middle Ages. Unfortunately, Dromore, just like Glenby Towers, the other house that Godwin designed in County Kerry, suffered from chronic damp, so much so that Marx's paintings just slid right off the walls. In fact, even Godwin had to admit that before it rained you could tell it was so because the walls started to weep. Now, as mentioned, Godwin also designed most of the building's furnishings. Here, for example, is a cupboard which once stood in the castle, but which I was shown last year in a private palazzo in Palermo, Sicily. Its castellated top is reminiscent of the Middle Ages. But what is one to make of this piece, also designed by Godwin for Dromore? The eagle chair is surely more Egyptian than Gothic in inspiration, and shows just how diverse were the architect's sources and how tolerant was his client. It's difficult to imagine how such a piece of furniture would have looked in such a setting. In the event, it didn't have to do so for very long. And in the next episode, I'll look at what became of Dromore and how it ended up being the stark and striking ruin that we see here today. Thank you so much for watching the Irish Aesthete. I look forward to seeing you then. Goodbye.